So I'm here with Dylan Johnson from
How's it
YouTube.
going?
How was the race yesterday? How did you get on?
That was decent. Decent, yeah. Nothing spectacular, but decent day.
How's your form this year so far, based on the race yesterday?
I mean, I think my form is really good, actually. My power numbers were the highest they've ever been for a 4.5-hour race. There's a lot of really fast dudes out here in Seattle.
Yeah, it looked fast from what I saw. And the bike you're riding looks loads of questions. Where to start? Mm-hmm. I guess tyre choice, mountain bike tyres, is that here to stay? Is that a permanent trend?
Well, I don't want to say it's a permanent trend because I think gravel racing can be a lot of different things. You could have a gravel race that's 70-80% road and have some gravel sectors and still call it a gravel race. I don't know that a mountain bike tire would be a great choice for a race like that. Okay. And we do have some races like that over here, like the BWR races, where there's a lot of road sections and it may actually be difficult to determine whether you go with a 40mm gravel tire or go with, something like this. But I think for the big races like Unbound or Big Sugar, in my mind, it's mountain bike tire, and that's the only thing. I'm not even considering a gravel tire for those races.
Well, they're still very much course dependent by the sound of it, though.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah. And what tires are we running to then?
These are Schwalbe Thunderbird 2.1s. I can go as big as a 2.2 in this frame, and I do that with the Conti Race Kings. I'll probably do that for Unbound. The reason I didn't do Conti Race King yesterday is because this tire has a little bit lower rolling resistance than the Conti Race King. But I don't always run it because it is quite a thin tire. So if there's a risk of flatting, I prefer to go with the Race King, which is a more puncture resistant tire.
Do you find any adverse effects on the handling with bigger tire, steering through corners from the bigger, heavier tire, or?
I don't know. I think it's all what you're used to. I think that maybe it's just because I come from mountain biking, but I think mountain bike tires, if you can get over the little bit slower steering, they corner better. Like there's more cornering traction. So if you can get used to the steering of the bike, I think the bike will actually handle better with the mountain bike tires on it.
Okay. So we have super wide tires, but then a super narrow handlebar. I mean, Where do we start? How narrow? How long is that stem? What the heck?
Right, yeah. So depending on where you measure, it's 30 or 31 at the hoods, but then what's nice about these bars, and this is a company called Ascent, and it's the Aeru long reach bar.
Okay.
The widest point of the drops is 40, and they're long reach, so you might notice here that the reach is quite long, and the reason for that is when you're in the Aero hoods position.
I see, yeah.
My contact point is practically in the middle of my forearm, so that makes it a lot more comfortable to hold this position, and it makes it more like a TT position.
Is that legal?
You get a lot. Well, it's legal in. I think these are UCI legal bars, but it's legal in Lifetime Grand Prix races to do whatever you want. You can actually still do the puppy paws position.
Can you? I didn't know that.
Lifetime Grand Prix races.
Different rules. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you riding in that position most of the time? You're not using the drops unless you're descending, I guess?
It depends on what I'm riding over. If it's very rough terrain, I'll get in the drops, but if it's less rough, I might do this. Yeah. And then the stem is a 150 mil stem. Which
I just said because the handlebar flares back a lot, so the reach, I guess, is not actually much longer than the short stem and the straight handlebar.
You do have to remember that these are long reach bars, so even though it flares back, the hoods come out further than a normal bar. Okay. So I think actually when you take all of there's a lot of things to take into account here. Like we need to break out the measuring stick. But when you take all of that into account, I actually think that it's as if you had a normal bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just gone a funny way about it.
Right, exactly. Yep.
But then Apogura bag, I know that can be more aero. I know Ridley did some testing with that bag in the winter. So is that for aero?
It is for aero. I didn't care. I had this on my bike for the race yesterday, and there was nothing in it.
Empty.
Empty. It's just there for aero purposes. I don't know if I can say a lot about it because this is a prototype bag from Apogura, but it is there for aero. It's not there to hold anything.
Have you tested on the wind tunnel?
Yes. Not yet, but that's on the docket.
Okay.
Yep.
So, okay.
I think another thing that I do want to mention is these wheels. So these wheels are from Duke. And they're doing aero gravel wheels, and I think what sets them apart is that these wheels are mega wide. They
look wide, don't they?
A 42 or 43 mil in external rim width, So massive external rim width. I mean, these are 2.1 mountain bike tires, and if you look at it, like, I mean, these rims almost look like they're as wide as the tire. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They don't go overboard with the internal rim width, though. It's only 28 mil internal, and I say only. 28 is wide, but I think when you get too wide, like 30 or 32 mil, some people have been having issues, folding or burping tires. Yeah. So I think them keeping it under 30 mil for the internal rim width was actually very smart.
You're not running inserts, are you? Or are you?
Not with the mountain bike tires. I do run inserts if I ever run gravel tires. Okay. But with the mountain bike tires, I don't actually find that I bottom out the tire that much, so I don't run them.
And what sort of pressures are you running? Like yesterday, for example, what were you running?
Yeah, I did 19 PSI in the front and then 20 PSI in the back.
Mountain bike pressures, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have 1x and 1052 range cassettes.
Yeah, so I've been on Shimano 2x for the last 3 or 4 years. And now I've gone SRAM 1x. And honestly, the main reason for it was just because I was having issues dropping chains last year. So I wanted to have kind of a hassle-free drivetrain. It irks me a little bit because if you go 1x, when you're cross-chaining, it is costing you a few watts. And that's actually why I haven't gone with the transmission. Some people have asked me, why haven't you gone transmission? The reason is because I want to run a KMC chain. KMC chains are slightly more efficient than the SRAM chains. So I've gone with the non-transmission version.
And that's a UDH. Yes, it is. Yeah, so
it is UDH. So you could
not to. Yeah.
Yeah, you could go transmission if you want.
How is you got a 46?
48.
48, sorry.
48 too.
How's the range and how the gaps compared to what you had before with Giro?
Yeah, I actually think that even though it's 1x, the range is bigger than when I had 2x. Okay. The tallest gear is taller, and then the easiest gear is easier. Yeah.
Okay. And you accept the sort of lost watts with the 1x and a chaining?
Yeah, it irks me, but I'm accepting it.
It irks you, you're losing watts.
Right.
But you're more aero at the front, possibly, with the 1x?
Yeah, definitely, potentially, especially since this is the aero chain ring. Yeah. So, there's trade-offs.
And the road pedals, I guess you're not unclipping. If you're unclipping,
if I'm unclipping, I'm having a bad day. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, you're going for this is the Ergon?
This is the Ergon C-Post. It's supposed to, add a little bit of suspension, a little bit more comfort.
Is that because you were lacking comfort with the regular C-Post you had before?
I don't want to say lacking comfort, but, I think that if there's anything that's kind of opened my eyes after we went to the Silverstone wind tunnel and did that pedaling efficiency rig testing, it's that stiffer is not always better on rough terrain. Okay. I think as racers, we always think we want the bike as stiff as possible and stiff as fast. I think on rough terrain, it could be the opposite. Stiffer might actually be slower. Yeah.
And taking that a step further, suspension?
Yeah, I don't have suspension on the bike right now, but last year I did run the Lauf fork for a lot of the year. And I also experimented with the Cane Creek inverted fork too. And those might go on this bike at some point. It's really course dependent. So this course wasn't very bumpy. In fact, the gravel's relatively smooth here, but give me a bumpy course, I might put a fork on.
Even on a smooth course, you don't think having a suspension fork, even though it's not really needed, it's not swapping it around.
It's debatable. If somebody ran a suspension fork here, I wouldn't say it's a bad call, but I don't know. I decided to go with the rigid. There is a lot of climbing out there. I know I've often been quoted as saying weight doesn't matter, but there is a lot of climbing out there, and a suspension fork is obviously heavier. So yeah.
So that is a bike check. Mm-hmm. What else can we expect to see on this bike changing? Is this the setup now, apart from tyres?
So for Unbound, I don't know. I may or may not change out the fork. I will change out the tires, Conti Race King tires. But other than that, it's probably going to stay the same.
You clearly enjoy changing, fettling, and tuning your bike. That's something that gives you a lot of enjoyment. But is it ever kind of stressful when you're constantly changing parts and that dilemma of is that better, is that faster, slower, and not knowing sometimes which is the best option?
I don't know if stressful is the right word. I just enjoy that part of the sport. I like those decisions that you have to make before a race. Is this faster? Is that faster? And you don't always make the right decision, but that's kind of the fun of it, Yeah.
And what's the next target for you then? Unbound, big target, but before then, anything else?
Unbound will be the next big race. There's some local races that I may do between now and then, but the next big race will be Unbound.
Okay.
Yeah.
While you're here, Felter celebrating your success, I guess, with a special edition bike.
Yeah.
So limited edition, Mighty 9.
Yep. So
More standard build.
right. So standard build, but the big changes that we made to last year was that they're internally routing the cables so that the internet doesn't get as mad at us. Internally routing the cables. They've done UDH derailleur.
Okay.
And one thing for the marginal gains weight weenies out there is that we had an all white bike last year, and white is actually quite a heavy paint. So they didn't do all white this year. They actually did clear coat on carbon for the rear end of the bike, and that just saves a little bit of weight by doing that. And yeah, if you're a big fan of this paint job, you can get this paint job now. So
Cool.
yeah.
Well, a pleasure to chat to you as always. Thank you for your time. Good luck with the races coming up.
Yeah, I appreciate it.